Okay, good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, we do seem to be plagued with technical difficulties. So if you are watching on YouTube, please check out the comments on the Facebook page for the correct YouTube link. The one in the post is unfortunately not the correct one. It leads to the Croatian version of the program, which happened about a few hours ago. My sincere apologies. And well, third time is the charm. So by that time, hopefully, we'll be able to make it work without major glitches. Okay, so we seem to be live on Facebook, and hopefully if you're trying to follow on YouTube, you found the correct link. So let's get started with today's program. Well, okay, so thank you very much for joining us tonight as well. We hope that some of you did manage to find the right streaming service despite technical difficulties. So let's continue with our Camino story for the second day on the virtual Camino Krk. For those of you who are joining us today, my name is Vedran and I'm the Secretary of the Croatian Confraternity of St. James and your guide to this virtual tour on the newest edition on the Croatian Camino routes. Just a little bit of background if you haven't followed the program yesterday. Croatia has tradition related to the Camino since 1203, when local confraternities of St. James helped pilgrims on their way to Santiago de Compostela. The modern confraternity of St. James has undertaken a project of re-establishing ancient medieval routes leading to Santiago, and Krk was our first destination, the first section of the new Croatian Camino route. Yesterday, you had the opportunity to walk the Camino on the first day, and now we'll continue on the second day. Porat is the place where our journey ended yesterday and where we continue our Camino today. Our first stamp for Porat today, and on we go. Also, hopefully we'll manage to avoid any technical difficulties, at least from the e-credential part. So after the program is completed, you'll be given a link where you can register to get your e-Compostela at the end of our virtual tour. This is what we saw about Porat yesterday. So our journey continues. The first section on the Camino route on the island of Krk from Porat is spectacular. Seaside, calm in the morning, deserted beaches, not many people, the sound of waves. It creates a really unique atmosphere, and it's definitely something to savor. It reminded me about the coastal Camino Portugues route that I walked in 2016. Only a few fishermen that you came across who were wondering, what are these people doing with backpacks and shells on the packs? What exactly is that Camino? We, of course, have been happy to share. This is an interesting thing we came across during our morning walk on the Camino Krk, basically showing hours in various global destinations throughout the world, from London to New York, Paris, and other places. It reminded me of the sense of camaraderie, a sense of brotherhood, so to speak, that pilgrims experience pretty quickly. Even on the first day, there is a custom called Camino Families. If you walk the Camino, you probably experienced how easy it was to establish contact with complete strangers, with people from other cultures, other continents that you've never seen before. And yet, over a course of few hours or a few days, they became almost like brothers and sisters, sharing a truly unique experience that is the Camino. This is something that fascinated me on the Camino every time I walked it, which so far was about 5 times, is that everybody smiles. Buen Camino is always accompanied with a smile, a sense of acceptance, a sense of respect, a sense, in a way, love through shared experience and through intense emotions one goes after during the Camino. Now, those of you who are Pellegrinos and Pellegrinas may remember this place. It is by far the most popular and the most admired albergue on the Camino, inside the medieval church at Granon. This is one example how a bunch of, in this case, more than 50 complete strangers came together for a communal dinner. This is a custom which is popular in Granon. Before communal dinner, of course, there is a blessing for the food and those that prepared it. The blessing is done in Spanish in rap style, accompanied by rhythm that pilgrims give to the sound of "We Will Rock You." The experience is definitely something to savor. But of course, that is the only part of the experience one can enjoy at Granon, but I won't spoil the surprise. If you haven't been there, you definitely must come. This is from 2018, one of the largest groups of pilgrims who did the Camino together. Over 45 pilgrims from Croatia have walked from Carrión de los Condes for about 400 kilometers to Santiago. A bus of complete strangers definitely didn't last as strangers after the first couple of days. Definitely a very intense emotional connection, friendships that lasted and still last for much more than the duration of the Camino. Granon once again. This is a more relaxed pilgrim atmosphere and togetherness in a bar at León, ancient royal seat on the Camino route towards Santiago.
There is a video. Arriba, abajo, al centro, para dentro.
Now, this is a mixed group of Croatian British and Swiss pilgrims. The crazy guy is Swiss, which one wouldn't expect from usually more reserved people. But it's also a way to discover a true secret. How is it possible to do those hundreds of kilometers for people who are not in shape, for people who have never hiked? So the secret is quite simple. Vino tinto and cerveza grande. It's one way to get the necessary fuel to keep you going. This is another group of Croatian pilgrims that walked the Camino as a group. And among them, there is one special pilgrim who is completely blind. She walked the Camino for 400 kilometers. At the beginning, it was a group of strangers. She didn't know anybody. But after 400 kilometers, it became a group of friends and definitely part of Camino family. Back to the island of Krk, this route, as you can see, is so peaceful and relaxing. In the morning, there is only a few jogger or somebody passing by, but truly spectacular. This was taken in October during the first organized pilgrimage on the island, where we marked the Camino route with the yellow arrows. Tranquility is something that one easily finds on the Camino. A sense of living in the moment, a sense of leaving your worries behind, a sense of making it easy to stop worrying about the future, to obsess about the past. That is something that definitely one of the main reasons that Camino is so fascinating. Pretty quickly, we come across the next town on the Camino route, which is Mullinsca, a pearl of the Kvarner Islands, or at least that's how it was called by Austrian nobility who summered here during the late 18th and early 20th century. The place is rich in tradition and in tourist offer. It has so much to offer. The first thing we'll take is a glance, where exactly did we walk today? So our journey started at Porat. As you can see, the coastline is very diversified, stretches of small inlets and harbors. And pretty quickly, we reached Mullinsca. Got our stamp, took a break, and now we can see what the place is all about.
Was it?
Welcome to Mullinsca, the center of Mullinsca municipality.
Daniel is the local tourist board director who served as our guide at the area of his municipality yesterday, and he'll continue to guide us today.
At the beginning of the 19th century, as a former granary of the island of Krk, it developed as a port for the export of agricultural products, but also around 1,000 wagons of firewood a year, mostly in Rijeka, Venice, and Chioggia in Italy. Mullinsca is proud of the oldest traditional family shipyard in Kvarner, the active shipyard of the Kraljic family from 1887.
The walk through Mullinsca is truly spectacular. The coastline and the promenade is absolutely beautiful. And that's me speaking as a guy who was born near the sea. So this kind of scenery is something that is very familiar. Next up, a paradise promenade. By far the most beautiful section, at least for me, on the Camino Krk.
The best part of our 9-kilometer-long promenade by the sea is the Paradise Road. This walking path, which connects Mullinsca and Ivice, is 2,500 meters long, and it's special for its rich vegetation and habitat for a dozen species of wild orchids. The large presence of aerosols, due to the proximity of the sea and the pine trees, has a rich healing properties for human health.
Well, I can definitely bear witness to the fact that it's highly therapeutic to walk this section of the Camino. The nature and the whole atmosphere is truly beautiful. I see we have people following us from Canada, from Spain. Bienvenido, buen camino. From Ireland, Caed Mille Folche. I hope I pronounced it right. So this section of the route is amazing. The climate, and this was, remember, October, is absolutely wonderful. For more adventurous, even swimming is not excluded as an option. Rest, of course, and taking breaks is a Camino custom that serves us well, even at the Camino Krk. Now, this section of the route has some interesting things along the side. This is not a dragon or a sea snake. These are some unique sculptures.
Engleski? Ne.
Sorry, again, we do seem to be plagued with those technical difficulties. But this essentially, to explain what Daniel, you weren't able to hear from him this time, is the sculptures were actually made by various sea motifs, whether it's fish or various sea animals. And the old pine trees, who were basically mostly dead, and once served as a shade along this route. And at this point, we leave Mullinsca and bid farewell to Daniel.
So enjoy your adventure in Mullinsca, stay safe, and buen camino.
Pretty quickly, we come to Nivice. This section of the Camino route is by far the best in terms of the cities you came across. The other days will be less developed, let's say, infrastructure and less villages and towns on the map. Next up is Nivice. And amazingly, which we didn't know when we started the project on the island of Krk, is that there are so many similarities with the Camino. Krk has its own wine fountain. And those of you who walk the Camino, I'm sure remember the wine fountain at the Bodega Irache, where you enjoyed free red wine, vino tinto. With its beautiful beaches and rich heritage, Nivice are definitely an enjoyable sight. Let's see, how did we get here? To give you a better perspective of the route. So we started from Mullinsca pretty quickly. We entered the Paradise Promenade, then one we saw and heard about, which is quite long. It stretches along the sea for quite a while. Definitely highly enjoyable section of the Camino. After the escape, we take a slight detour along the beaches and we enter Nivice, a place which stretches along the sea for quite a while. Next step is awaiting us. And let's see what Nivice have to offer.
been developed into a strong tourist center with more than 800,000 nights every year.
You can easily see the reason why. Crystal clear sea, blue beaches, wonderful walk for sure. Pretty quickly, of course, taking a break in another bar, we leave Nivice. But before we do, we definitely have to see what kind of wine fountain is there in Nivice. Unlike the one on the Camino, the wine here is not free, but for about €7, you get a hefty portion of glass of wine, a glass, and a hefty slice of the local delicacies. So a truly unique site for sure. Although Krk is not famous for Vino Tinto, the wine source here are not red wine. It's white wine, so-called Žlahtina, a bit difficult to pronounce, I know, is well known even outside the borders of Croatia. Although we try to keep it a pretty good secret. The quantity produced is always limited. This is a sweetwater lake just outside of Nivice with its rich plant and animal life. The road continues. We leave the town and we continue on, crossing the road and entering another section of the forest. These types of dry walls are typical to the Croatian part of the Adriatic. They served as land plots and were built over the centuries through backbreaking work. Now, at this section, when we marked the Camino, a couple of enthusiasts came across some mushrooms, and that reminded me of another Camino lesson. The Camino will provide. Camino provides. It's amazing how many times you saw that in practice. Camino giving you what you need at the moment you need it. Not necessarily at the moment you want it, but at the moment you need it. I remember a story of two Americans who walked the Camino. Plenty of Americans walk the Camino, but what made these guys special, that one was in a wheelchair and he was fully immobile from neck down. His friend pushed him all the way from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to Santiago de Compostela. Now, and they even made a documentary, I'll Push You. One of the things I remember from their story is that as they were feeling pretty low on top of one hill, they were considering dropping the whole thing. Too much for them. There was nobody around. They were feeling pretty down. Suddenly, they saw a lady coming up next to them. They introduced themselves, and it turned out that lady was a nurse who actually works with invalids like the guy in the wheelchair. It's another example of Camino providing. This section is relatively short, and pretty quickly we are at Omišalj, an ancient city monument. Another interesting connection to the Camino, that in 12th century, this place was known as the place of shells, Castri Musculi. Interesting combination. Let's see, how did we get here? So as we left Nivice, crossing the main road, very quickly we enter the forest. Passing that Sweetwater Lake we saw. This is roughly where we found those mushrooms. Although we are not walking 20 kilometers per day, you'll find that Camino Krk is definitely much less intense than the French route in Spain. The whole route is about 107 kilometers in 6 days, or that's the recommended schedule. So it's about between 17 and 20 kilometers per day. And there we are at Omišalj. Let's see what this place has to offer. But first, of course, we'll need to get our stamp.
Dear guests, welcome to Omišalj, an ancient hilltop town and the first place that you will encounter after passing the bridge. Omišalj will welcome you with its picturesque historical center, which is located on the 85-meter high cliff and where you can explore an exceptional cultural and historical heritage.
To glimpse a little bit more about the whole historical heritage, this is a very interesting archaeological site. View from the air is even more spectacular. You can see the beach nearby. It's quite popular in the summer as well. Omišalj also has a unique custom among the cities in Croatia, and I'd say in Europe. I haven't seen this kind of tradition before. This is something that happens every day in August 15th on the Assumption of Mary feast. Let's see, how does it look like? I don't know about you, but seeing this makes me definitely want to come and visit as soon as possible. We've concluded our walking or virtual walking for the day, and this is now time as yesterday for some spiritual thoughts. Unfortunately, again, technical issues with those links, but we'll play it directly. Let's see. Okay. And there are even English subtitles.
Za Camino ljudi koji se spremaju na putovanje žele saznati što više informacija. Koliko kilometara dnevno se mora prohodati, kako izgledaju prenoćišta, ima li svako prenoćište tuš, koje stvari uzeti u svoj ruksak. Na sva ta pitanja može se odgovoriti jednom rečenicom. Ne brinite se ni za što. Jer ukoliko stvarno čovjek hodočasnik uroni u hodočašće, tada je briga oko nekih stvari nevažna. Krist koji zove na hodočašće, on se brine oko nekih detalja i čini tvoje putovanje mogućim. On pripravlja mjesto noćenja. On ti šalje braću koja ti se stavljaju na raspolaganje kod obroka, noćenja, pokazivanja pravca puta. Treba odbaciti brige i krenuti. Prepustiti se da on rješava tvoja brojna pitanja i strahove. Brineš li se često u svom životu? Dopuštaš li da ti strah od nepoznatoga priječi napraviti prvi korak? Uđi u ozračje povjerenja. Ne brini se tjeskobno. Dopusti u svom životu da te ljudi i vrijeme iznenade lijepim susretima. Dopusti Kristu da te izbavi iz tjeskoba.
And back to day 2. Sorry about that. But again, I truly do hope the third time will be the charm and we will avoid to be plagued with those pesky bugs. Before we leave you, I would like to share a testimony by one of the pilgrims who walked the Camino, both in Spain and in island of Krk.
put idemo ispočetka.
For the 400th time, we're starting again. Hi,
Ja sam Lidija.
my name is Lydia. Walked in Spain last year, and I also did the Camino Krk. This is my credencial. More importantly, are my memories. And memories of beautiful people, nature, organizers, local people who welcome us hospitably. I would like to go again and again and again. Join us. Our feet will hurt, maybe we'll get some blisters, irrelevant. But what we carry back, full hearts and soul and wonderful, wonderful memories. Come. So this is how one of our pilgrims described the Camino. Once again, I apologize for wrong links on YouTube. I hope those of you who followed it on Facebook did manage to catch a little bit of a glimpse of the atmosphere. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow evening at the same time. Buen camino.